October 5th, 2021, official time 6 o'clock. Before I ask for an approval agenda, we have two amendments we need to add on time-sensitive items. Mr. Risner, you want to present those to us?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. So one is the selection of the architect for the CDBG expansion or renovation of the, or reconstruction or renovation of the health department. And there's a time deadline there that we're working towards and need to add selection of health department architect as an item. The second thing there is related to the One Georgia application for the expansion of the sewer to go to the industrial park.
All right, you've heard the amendments. If I can get approval agenda along with the two amended items.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion, we have a second.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Ayes have it. All right, tonight, Mr. Goins with our Park and Recreation is going to open us up in an invocation and pledge.
Please stand. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this evening, Lord. Thank you for the many blessings that you bestow upon this community, this county, and this state. Lord, we just ask you continue to bless us, continue to give us the blessings that we're so many times go undeserving of. But Lord, we continue to strive to be perfection in your light, your eyes. Lord, we just ask you be with this meeting, everyone in here, that we may conduct ourselves to honor you. No matter what we disagree on, Lord, we know that we're trying to do the best thing we can in your eyes. And we just ask that we do that. Lord, we just ask, bless everyone as they leave here and their families. Continue to bless this community. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Matt. We'll start off tonight with planning and zoning. While Mr. Risner gets everything set up, I'll let everybody know we're going to have the applicant have an opportunity to speak, and if you're here in opposition, you'll also get the equal time to speak. So we'll call on you during the zoning procedures. Is that your baby picture?
Showing that. Be careful what other pictures might pop up.
Get that very often. Sorry about
Maybe I get some brownie points for that.
Are y'all ready? Mr. Petrowski, you can start.
Chairman, item A is a request by Aggregates USA LLC. This is for a rezoning from RR to M2 with conditional use to allow the establishment of an overburden pile. Also associated with that is item B. Those overburden piles will cross over onto the adjoining parcel, which is currently zoned M2. So it would just be a conditional use on item B. Because both these items are directly tied together, we recommend that we discuss them both at the same time. The Planning Commission recommended approval of item A with the condition that a stipulation that the applicant consider expanding the buffer along the creek and then also in research and protect the existing cemetery on the applicant's land. And then item B, they recommended approval without caveat.
All right. Representative from Aggregates would like to start.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Jack Nichols. I'm here on behalf of Aggregates USA LLC. Appreciate you giving us some time and letting us combine these two into one. I think that'll make it more efficient as we go along. So Aggregates USA is probably better known as Vulcan. Aggregates is a subsidiary of Vulcan Materials Company. Vulcan, as y'all probably know, is the country's largest producer of construction aggregates. That's crushed stone, sand and gravel, ready-mix concrete, that sort of thing. Vulcan strives to be good neighbors and stewards of the community, stewards of the environment and the various communities they serve all over the country. With me here today is Daniel Wilson, who's the Postel plant manager, and Carol Landrum, who's the manager of community and government relations, will probably be coming here late. She had a little car trouble, but she is on her way. So we're here today primarily, and this is sort of part A of the two A and Bs, about this tract here, which you can see on your screen. That's approximately a 90-acre tract of property. It's got just a little bit that touches Skinner Road up there at the northwest corner there. This has been owned by Vulcan for about 10 years. It's currently zoned rural residential RR. We're asking that it be rezoned to M2, general industrial. The reason we want it rezoned is we'd like to move or establish some overburden areas there. And the reason we have two requests, the Part B, is because on these next couple of slides you'll see these are the two properties next to it. There's one of them. There's the other one. Probably easiest to see maybe on that slide, but the three there, or these two other ones, are going to have a little bit of the overburden kind of spill onto them, and that's why we need the conditional use for those two properties as well. They are already zoned M2. They already have overburden on them. They have various mining operations going on, but we are required to ask for the conditional use to have a little bit of additional overburden storage area on those two as well. So that's the purpose of the two requests, A and B. All right, so let me maybe give you the best looking slide to know kind of what we're asking about, and that's the request. You see the parts in yellow there. That's where we would propose that our overburden storage area be allowed. You can see that's primarily, largely on the 90-acre tract where we're asking that it be rezoned, and then it spills over a little bit onto those other two tracts. Now, there were a couple of concerns that came up that Mr. Petrowski alluded to at the P&Z meeting. One was a cemetery, which admittedly Vulcan was not aware this cemetery was out there. You see, though, there's a little carve-out on the northern part of the 90-acre tract. That's approximately where the cemetery is. Vulcan is very happy to protect that cemetery. I got a couple of pictures. We went out there and looked at it. We're shown where it is. It is an older cemetery. It's kind of grown up. There appear to be about 6 to 8 total graves. As you can see, they're not really maintained real well, but Vulcan is absolutely willing to and will be glad to protect that area. So we're not going to infringe on that cemetery area. And that's approximately a 3.5-acre tract that would not be touched where the cemetery is. The other big issue that came up at P&Z was there's a stream. I'm sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit, but as I go back, you see the stream buffer going in between those two yellow pieces. So these are a couple of pictures of that stream. The United States Geological Survey has categorized this stream as an intermittent stream. What that means is that it flows only when it receives water from rainfall runoff or springs or from a surface source, like melting snow. So it is an intermittent stream. It is recognized by the USGS, and as we stated and talked about at the P&Z meeting, Vulcan will do everything, as it always does, in following both federal and state regulations, environmental standards, to make sure that that stream is protected. We will put in the proper buffers, and actually we're going to do a little bit extra to make sure the stream is not harmed, the water flow is not harmed in any way. But those are a couple of the big issues that came up at P&Z, so we wanted to make sure we addressed those with y'all, because I know they're important to many of the people who are here. This is a picture. This is just a sample picture of a berm. What the berm is it's basically the protection for the overburden. So if you're looking at that picture, the left side that you don't see, that's going to be where all the overburden gets stored. This is a grassed berm. Vulcan does grass berms. They also do treed or wooded berms. And we're happy to work with the commission or the citizens who live around there to talk about what they might prefer, and we'll try to work with them as best we can on that. But that's sort of a sample of what a berm looks like. All right. Y'all are aware of this, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know. You've got various standards you have to use when you decide to rezone property. The main thing you have to do is what I've bolded there is you have to balance the interests of the community in promoting public health, safety, morals, and general welfare against the right of property owners to the unrestricted use of their property. And then how do y'all do that? Jones County, as has virtually every county in the state, has set up various standards to do that. I'm going to run through them real fast and just remind you of what they are. First standard is whether the proposed zoning decision will permit a use of property that is suitable in view of the use and development of adjacent and nearby property. So it'd be Vulcan's position that this use, allowing overburden storage, is an appropriate use. It's not going to be unsuitable in comparison to surrounding properties. There's already 2 properties, as you can see on this side, which are owned by Vulcan, that are M2, that are surrounding it on 2 sides of the property, and then you have the rural residential on the other sides of the property. But M2's right around here. This is not something out of the ordinary that we're asking for. And again, it's to store overburden. That's what the request is. The second standard that you decide on in making your decision on whether to rezone or not is whether the proposed zoning decision will adversely affect the existing use or usability of adjacent or nearby property. You saw on this slide a minute ago, the adjacent and nearby properties are either already Vulcan used for the mine and what's going on at the quarry, or they are, wooded, basically undeveloped tracts, much like the 90-acre tract. So we would submit to you that this is not going to be any use that adversely affects surrounding properties. There's already overburden storage out there. There's already mining operations out there. We're just expanding it a little bit into this 90-acre tract. The third standard for y'all to consider is whether the property to be affected by the proposed zoning decision has a reasonable economic use as currently zoned. To Vulcan, the property owner, a zoning of RR, rural residential, doesn't benefit them at all. They can't use the property. That's why we're asking that it be rezoned to M2. If it is rezoned, it has a lot of economic use and value to Vulcan. It'll allow expansion of what the operations are that they're doing out there, and that's good for Vulcan, and I'd also submit it's good for Jones County. So again, the current economic use is not valuable, but the one, if it's rezoned, would be very valuable. The fourth standard is whether the proposed zoning decision will result in a use which will or could cause an excessive or burdensome use of existing streets, transportation facilities, utilities, or schools. This is not going to be an issue with what we're doing. None of these are going to be affected. I'll show you this map again, and you do see we have some haul roads listed there. We have to build those. Vulcan has to build those because they would be hauling the overburdened stuff they're digging up over to the storage areas. But those roads are all within the quarry. They're within Vulcan's property, so we're not going to be going out on county roads. We're not affecting anything outside what's within the property that Vulcan owns. So I'd submit to you standard 4 doesn't really apply here. It's not anything that's an issue. Standard 5, whether the proposed zoning decision is in conformity with the policy and intent of the land use plan. This was touched on if you read the P&Z staff report under Jones County's comprehensive plan that was passed in 2017. You see that's the overall future land use map. As we zoom in to the specific area, you see up there yellow is suburban residential, the purplish gray area is industrial, and then red is commercial, green is forestry agricultural. So in essence, I don't know if it's, well, my pointer won't show up, but in essence you're talking about below Skinner Road, kind of below the Essence Skinner Road, down to where the purple-gray industrial area already is. That's what we would be asking to be rezoned. Admittedly, it is currently suburban residential, but it's right up next to an industrial area, and this is clearly kind of a mixed-use area to begin with, so we don't believe this is so far out of bounds of the future land use map that it should cause you not to approve this request. Let's see. All right, final standard on rezoning. Whether there are other existing or changing conditions affecting the use and development of the property which gives supporting grounds for either approval or disapproval of the proposed zoning decision. And I just submit to you kind of a little bit like I've already talked about. We don't believe this is going to be a major change for this area. There's already a quarry there. There's already overburden storage on the adjacent properties. We're just expanding that a little bit. We're going to build a berm. We're going to protect the cemetery. We're going to make sure the stream has appropriate and even extra buffers to make sure it is protected. And so I'd submit to you that, this request should be approved. I throw in this picture, and I had it at P&Z as well. This is from Skinner Road, looking into the distance at a current overburden storage area that's out there. The point here is we don't believe it has any major effect on the landscape out there. It is at a distance away, I agree, but this is from Skinner Road, looking at a current area of overburden storage. And then again, just a sample here of what a grass berm will look like or can look like. So I'd ask that you approve this rezoning. I'd again repeat what Mr. Petrowski said, which is that P&Z recommended approval with those stipulations that he talked about. I'd also ask for a conditional use, very similar. There's standards you have to decide upon and evaluate in making that decision. And again, the conditional use kind of comes in both with the 90 acres and with those two adjacent properties. That's where we're asking for the conditional use. Same sort of deal. You have standards that are set out in section 117.41 of the Jones County Code. They're very similar, so I'm going to kind of just skim through these, but one, similar proposed use or structure shall be compatible with development and uses existing on adjacent and nearby property. That's very similar to one we already talked about. There's already overburden storage on adjacent properties. This is not anything different than that, so we think it is compatible with what's already out there and what's in that area. Second standard is proposed use or structure shall not have a substantial adverse impact upon the existing use or usability of adjacent or nearby property. That's also a very similar standard to what we talked about in rezoning. We do not believe this is going to have any adverse impact upon the surrounding properties, particularly when we're protecting that stream, which was one of the biggest concerns folks had at P&Z. Standards 3 and 4 up there. The 3 is almost a carbon copy of what we talked about in rezoning. It deals with the traffic and use of streets. As I said earlier, we're not using county roads. The only roads we're using are inside the quarry. And so we're not going to be affecting utilities or anything like that within the county. The 4th standard, whether the proposed development will conform with the duly adopted land use and or other physical development plans or policies for the area. Again, as we talked about, this is what we're asking to be rezoned and asking for the conditional use is suburban residential under the future land use map, but it is right up next to industrial and a lot of industrial, which is this quarry. So we, again, don't think it's so far out of bounds that it should be denied for that reason. And then the last standard that you all consider in deciding a conditional use request is, again, similar to one in rezoning, whether there are other existing or changing conditions affecting the use and development of the property, which gives supporting grounds for either approval or disapproval of the request. And again, I'd submit to you, this is going to be something that allows Vulcan to improve its operations. It makes it able to operate more efficiently and effectively. I think that's good for Vulcan. I think that's good for Jones County. So I'd ask this commission to please approve of Vulcan's request both for the rezoning of the 90 acres and for the conditional use requests on the 90 acres and those 2 adjoining tracts. I don't have anything else, but I'm happy to answer any questions that y'all may have, and if you would allow me, if someone wants to oppose, I'd like a chance to respond to whatever those opposition arguments are.
Any questions at this time?
I got one. So there was
Yes,
a
sir.
request to extend the buffer on the creek, and it said it would be considered. Did we determine if that would actually be done and what would be the buffer increase?
Yeah, we will, yes, Commissioner, that was asked. We will increase the normal buffer. The problem we have right now is it typically takes, my understanding, about 4 to 8 months for the feds and the state to come in and kind of tell you what your buffer has to be. So I don't have, and I can't give you any specifics on, first of all, what the normal buffer is, and then whatever the extended buffer would be. I think there was some concern, and I'm sure folks may speak to it, about some of the natural hardwood trees that are out there along the creek. And Vulcan has admitted or told me that they were definitely willing to protect those hardwoods that are right along the creek too. But as far as the specifics, I'm sorry, but we don't have that yet.
My question was along the same lines. Has Georgia EPD had an opinion. Obviously, you haven't had time to review that at this point, or you haven't gotten that back. And then the next was, where does that stream actually go when water is in it? Because many of our streams look kind of docile and quiet, but when we have a storm, some of those streams get very big and they go places where people fish. So where does that stream go?
Sure. I don't know exactly where it goes. What I'd tell you, and let's see if I can go back to the stream. These pictures of this stream are actually from yesterday. Let me get to, where is it? Where's my picture? There it is. So these pictures of this stream are from yesterday, when we had some rain. Today we've had a lot more, certainly. But again, the United States Geological Survey has characterized this as an intermittent stream. What's the definition of that? It's really, and I'll tell you what the definition is, it's when there's other rainfall, or there's rainfall that basically causes this to become a stream. So it's not a massive running river or anything. That's not what you have. This is probably a pretty decent representation of when it's full, not completely full maybe, but pretty active. I don't know exactly where it goes. If we look at, let's see, it's hard to see on this Google Earth map, and I don't know exactly where it goes.
Any more questions?
I was gonna say, I was gonna ask Miss Simpson. She would know.
Rock Creek Road
Rock Creek.
goes
Let them
over to
talk
Luke Smith Road
during
and
comments.
ends
I was
up
just gonna say where the creek went.
But since you're not out there, ma'am, I know they want the answer to that question, but I'd like for you to be at the microphone so that it
Sure.
can be taken down. So in just a moment, we'll
Yeah,
call
Ms.
you up
Marvel.
if you don't mind.
All right.
Thank you.
Have you got anybody else wants to present anything for?
I do not.
Okay.
No, sir.
Chairman, I got one more question. Is there any monitoring, since we don't know at this point how much the buffer's going to be, where the stream goes, and I know the USGS talks about an intermittent stream, but they don't come back out and reassess those streams every year. So that could be a determination from 20 years ago, 50 years ago, that they put that in. So is there any monitoring after the fact of if there's concerns about what could go in the stream and go downstream? Is there any requirements on Vulcan's behalf?
There are. So they have continuing requirements to meet whatever the EPD, federal and state regulations are for protecting the stream. It's not, and Daniel Wilson may want to speak to this too. He's, again, the local plant manager, but it's not just they come out one time and say, okay, you got to build a buffer and then it's done. They have to continually check it, continually test it, take samples, primarily to see kind of, this is a quarry, are you putting something in the stream you shouldn't be putting in there? If they're putting something in that they shouldn't be putting in there, there are fines and other penalties that they would suffer. Daniel, do you have anything you want to, this is Daniel Wilson, Mr. Mayor, do you have anything to add? Could you add to that?
Anytime we do anything like this, we do, of course, report to the EPD and the EPA. Any discharge, whether stormwater runoff, processed water discharge, we're required to sample that and send that in. We have very strict guidelines. So if there's any sediment or anything like that that's getting into the water, we by law are required to report that. And we do have visits semi-annually to come out and check all of our discharges and streams. Does that answer? Okay,
Thank you.
good. Yes, sir.
I have a question too.
Yes, ma'am.
At the cemetery part of it, access, if you maintain and what access, same access they already have to get to that cemetery? Or that roadway that is coming off Skinner Road, will they be able to, the piece of property that y'all have from Skinner Road, would that be the way for them to get to that property?
I think as you look at where that cemetery is, the easiest way would probably either be to come down Skinner Road and then go around, or you're just walking through one of the other properties to get to it. But again, the entire cemetery is on Vulcan's property, so it would really not. I don't think they're going to go out and charging a bunch of people, but there could be concerns about people coming onto their property who are not authorized to be there, and we don't want that for various liability reasons. But I think if there's somebody who wants to come out there and see that cemetery, yeah, we can work out getting them an opportunity to come out there and see it. But we'd rather them coordinate it through Vulcan to be able to do that, rather than randomly trying to show up and go out there.
Question.
Yes.
On the stream bank, environmental concerns there, since you are doing a large earth-moving project, you could potentially have an adverse reaction or effect on that stream bank, essentially drying it up and maybe drying up ponds downstream or change of water flow, watershed habits. Have you done any kind of studies on that of your berm piles, what it would potentially do to that watershed area?
To my knowledge, no, we have not done any studies at this point because, again, if you don't approve the rezoning, you don't allow it, we're not going to be able to do any of this to begin with. So it would be the normal step in our process to have the rezoning approved and then test it and then do the studies you're talking about. Have the federal government and the state government come look at it. And if they, and I know, they will give guidance and direction on what you have to do or don't have to do to protect that stream and make sure it is not harming the water flow with whatever you're putting out there.
One last question, Chairman.
Go
I
ahead.
got 'em.
That's what we're here for.
What is your alternate plan if this is not approved? I mean, obviously, you're not going to shut down the process.
Right. I mean, the quarry's not going to shut down, no. But it's certainly going to be a problem because we are running out of overburdened space. Now, you see on here there's a 710-foot mark there up. And again, I'm sorry, the pointer does not work on the TV, but I think y'all can see where it is. That's above sea level. That's not 710 feet up in the air right now, but that's above sea level. That is the highest the highest overburden storage area that's out there right now. We don't really want to go over that amount, so we need some additional space to put more overburden storage. The one option that kind of came up at P&Z was, well, what about if you go across Light and Tie Road? And I don't have a good picture of it, I'm sorry, but if Vulcan does own here, this area up there across Light and Tie Road, Vulcan does own that acreage as well. But the problem with going there is now we're taking overburden further. We're having to cross a county road, which is dangerous. We don't really want to do. And it's just more costly, not as efficient. There's also, my understanding, a stream on this side of the road, on the western side of Light and Tie Road. So you're going to kind of run into the same stream issue on either side. So to have as little impact as possible on county residents trying to get around, riding on roads, it's a whole lot easier to allow the rezoning on this 90 acres and let them go there than try and make them move it across Light and Tie Road. That, I think, creates a lot of issues I know Vulcan doesn't want to deal with, including increasing the cost that they would have to incur to do that. And I don't think the county would want that either.
Question. Has Vulcan considered using a conveyor system to get the dirt over Light and Tie, sort of similar to what they did at 285 at the airport a number of years ago, so it did not negatively impact the roads or traffic?
I don't know the answer to that question. I imagine one of the issues is cost in doing that. There's probably some safety concerns, but I do not know how much study they've put into that. And I don't know if, Daniel, do you have any?
It's an extreme cost, and there's also, when you run a conveyor over a roadway, there's lots of things you have to deal with that, and also adds a couple of extra steps to the processing. These trucks, when they dump it out, it's typically pushed into a pile with heavy equipment. This would require loading the material, having to build a dumping station to get it onto the conveyor, running it across the road, having more equipment which has to go back and forth across the road. Not all the time, but it would have to cross the road at intervals. Just a whole bunch of extra things there that require just a whole lot of extra work and permit.
And I think there's much greater safety concerns in doing that as well.
Absolutely. That's probably, when you convey over the road, that's probably the biggest concern we have.
Any other questions from the board?
I'm good right now.
All right,
Thank y'all.
all right. Ms. Simpson, I think I saw your hand up first. You'd like to come forward, lady, first? Just introduce yourself and your address for the record for the...
I'm Julia Simpson, and this is my husband, Jimmy Simpson, and we live at 351 Skinner Road. Our property abuts the land, the 90-acre parcel that they are proposing to be rezoned from rural residential to M2 general industrial. We own the parcel, which is about 29 acres that abuts the land in question, but we are also speaking on behalf of the estate of Paul and Marguerite Simpson. That's Jimmy's parents who have passed away in the last few years. And Jimmy is one of the executors of that estate, which abuts the property on the north end of the land. We came to the P&Z meeting and we voiced our opposition to this change based upon the creek system that we have discussed several times here. We talked, yeah, I'll let Jimmy talk about the creek.
Tell you about the creek. I moved there 1958. Or it came in 1959, so I didn't move in on it. And all the years I've lived there, 63 years, the creek has never stopped running. Never. Even when we had the 90-day drought, the creek kept running. It's not one creek, it's two that runs together. Now, the creek runs together and it runs through their land. It runs all the way through their land. It turns around, believe it or not, it goes north.
It goes under.
And then it goes under Light Tie. And that is the same creek that he was referring to on the side of the road.
We were the ones that brought up the issue of the family cemetery on this property. We were aware of that because Earl Coven had come to us when he was writing his book and asked Jimmy, because Jimmy was knowledgeable about the history of that area, to show him where that cemetery was. And so we showed him where it was. And we also are concerned, of course, because of, obviously, the overburden itself is a huge mountain. I know the picture was a long ways away, but it is a very, very vast structure there that's going to be essentially in our backyard. And we and our neighbors are really concerned about how this impacts the value of our property. After the meeting, the P&Z meeting, I was leaving and I had a discussion or a conversation with, I'm going to let you hand out those of these, with the chair, yeah, both of those, with the chairman of the Planning and Zoning Board, and he essentially told me that our opposition to the rezoning was doomed from the start because the land was already designated as industrial in the county's land use map. The lawyer had used this map briefly, as he did tonight, to show where that industrial area was. And I have to admit that as a citizen, I did not know about the existence of this map. And so I called my county commissioner, Wendy, and she told me to get in contact with Planning and Zoning. So I called Mr. Petrowski. Thank you, Mr. Petrowski. And he pointed out how I could access this information, the picture of the map, and so forth. In case anybody wants to find it, it is located on the P&Z web page under Mr. Petrowski's picture. It's in a document that's entitled 2017 Joint Comprehensive Plan / Jones County and City of Gray. I found two maps pertinent to our appeal. The map on page 129 shows the county's land use map before 2016, and the map on page 132 shows the county's land use map for 2017 going forward. The most recent land use map is labeled Approved 2017. It is titled Approved 2017, page 132, Appendix G. As you can see, the areas in purple are designated as industrial, and I've marked the location of the parcel in question at the bottom right. Because this 2017 map does not show the property lines, I also copied the prior map that was found on page 129 to show where the property lines are located, because that particular map did show the property lines. As you can see, on that map, J5216 is rural residential. Q public page is also attached to that. The back is a staple to the back of that. That's the page that we received from Planning and Zoning notifying us of this particular process. What I found out was that if you look at where that land, that 90 acres lies, it is not in the industrial, it's not in the land, it does not fall in the purple area that is designated as industrial. It does not fall within the county's land use approved map for industrial. And of course, that's why they're coming here to try to get it changed to rural residential. If this land is approved as industrial, and Vulcan proceeds with its plan to create an overburdened mountain of dirt, it will forever change the nature of this land. Forever is a long time. And as we get older, and I'm getting old, I know I'm old because I taught a lot of y'all. Okay? All right. And anyway, as we get older, we start asking ourselves questions. One of the main questions that Jimmy and I have talked about many times is, did we leave this place better than we found it? Did I leave it better than I found it? I don't think we can, in good conscience, say that approving Vulcan's rezoning is going to make Jones County a better place. I don't think that destroying the nature of that particular beautiful bottomland hardwood forest is going to make Jones County a better place. I know that there are other people that are with us that want to speak. Thank you.
Hold on, any questions for the Simpsons?
Any questions for the Simpsons?
Any questions for Ms. Simpson?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to come forward? Sure. You can just introduce yourself and your address.
John T. Allen, 411 Skinner Road. On the property ahead of the 90 acres. There's a reason she's a school teacher. She's lots more than the rest of us. I had a whole bunch of stuff written on this piece of paper. I had no idea she was doing all her homework. I was stupid not to believe it. I'm a hater. I'm a hater of the rock quarry. It's been in my life. We moved out there in the early 60s. They do stuff with no repercussions. When I was 8 years old, my mother woke me up one morning and said, "Hey, son, we need to prime the pump. We don't have water." We go out there and we try to prime the pump. Hand dug well. Dug in 1800s or the early 1900s. It was dry. Rock quarry blasting. Dried our well. Our well's not the only the well that's ever been dried. And this property, this creek that they're talking about, intermediate, Jimmy just told you, it's always ran. My brother and I dammed it up as kids before we built the pond that was on 411. This can't happen. They've been doing stuff to us forever. And now they want to build a big berm, 70 foot tall is what I'm being told. But then you put a 50 foot tall lotlolly pine on top of that. We'll never see the sun. This can't happen. My last 8 years in the Marine Corps, I was in Quantico, Virginia. I went to a meeting every day. And they were called stakeholder meetings. And every member at that meeting was a Marine. And every decision we made affected each one of us. I don't know if any of y'all live around the rock quarry or ever been involved in something like eminent domain. That's what I feel like this is. Y'all are making a decision. We'll have to live with it. Please say no to this.
Anyone else tonight?
Hi, I'm Wanda Bush, and my husband Danny's here tonight. We live at 426 Skinner Road. Our property is right across the street from their entrance into the property. So, and as of now, it is very noisy, and they're going to come in and clear cut that. And I've asked them when they clear cut it, how are they going to haul it out? Hopefully not through Skinner Road. The road is nothing but a cut through now, and it's horrible as it is. And they said that they would take it through the haul section through the quarry, but, you know, that's what they said, but we don't know for sure. My main concern is the noise, because once they clear cut that, put the burn pile up, it's just going to be more noise. And also, it's going to decrease our property value. You know, we've been out there for 36 years, and the quarry was not near what it is now. And, you know, I just want to ditto everything that Timothy and the Simpsons said, because, you know, we've all talked, you know, and we've all got the same concerns. And my thing is, you know, y'all are, if they're requesting to rezone it to M2, okay, so yes, y'all, that's, you know, for industrial, but what's going to keep them maybe from later on, maybe the burn pile doesn't work. Well, now it's already rezoned. What's going to keep them from mining on it? That's going to be even closer. The blast now rattles the windows. I've had to, you know, replace the brick on the house. It's cracked. You know, there's just several things here. I'm just concerned of, you know, what it's going to do to the neighborhood and the effects and everything. And I just, you know, I'm just not in agreement with this. You know, again, property value, you know, goes down, but then property taxes still go up. So, you know, we're kind of in limbo right there. But anyway, I just, you know, want to ask y'all to, you know, definitely, you know, just to say no to this. And I thank you for your time.
Any questions from the board? Thank you. Anyone else tonight? I see a hand.
My name is Lisa Blanks Horkin. I grew up here in Jones County. My property is 507 Luke Smith Road. The reason I'm here is to sort of back up my neighbors, because my father, Philip Blanks, and my uncle, Jerry Blanks, owned property there on Luke Smith Road and to Greenwood Road. The stream that Mr. Nichols was talking about, and I think Mr. Wilson, comes as far as our land. It impacted our land. Once upon a time, this land was dairy farm. I have seen that creek in my 67 years, because that's where I grew up on the farm, still own it, thank heavens. I have seen that creek literally white. If you know anything about animals, you know that they're not really particular about what they drink or where they drink. They'll drink nasty water. At one time, long before Vulcan, I will say that, came, the cows would not, they would cross the creek, but they would not drink from the creek. Now, what does that say? The last time we fought this battle, again, before Vulcan came, we took pictures, and they're literally in this creek, and it's called Rock Creek, and it goes from the quarry through Stephanie Parker, who also is a Jones County native, And her husband's land, which is right next to mine, we are distant cousins, and at one time that land was joined. The creek cuts through their property onto my property and goes on over to 129 and on. In other words, there's a lot more acreage that it impacts than just the Skinner Road area. Now, so far, thank heavens, Vulcan has been great. That creek, we can now go back, we find crayfish, we find minnows, we find snakes, we can find arrowheads. But my grandchildren can play in that creek. Think about, though, not just the creek. What does that impact? That creek impacts, we now have quail again out there. I hate to say that too loud because I don't want people coming out there and shooting them. We have turkey. Oh my gosh, the turkey have come back since we're not keeping the pastures mowed down. We have deer, we have red fox, we have, gray fox, we have coyotes, we have possums, we have coons, we have armadillos, we have all kinds of stuff. But the point is, this ecology is awesome. My ponds are clean because the runoff even from the road is decent. Please hesitate before you do anything rash, because as Julia pointed out, this is forever. But as my daddy used to say, you take care of what you have, because they're not making any more land. And I think that's what Vulcan is finding out. They're not making any more land. As Julia pointed out, this is our next generation, and that's wondering. I'm glad I got to bring her tonight because I wanted her to see our government in action. But I want y'all to also think about your children and what they are inheriting. Please. Thank you.
Anyone else tonight? What's the will of the board tonight?
Chair, I did have a question, it might be more for Tim. So, when the Planning and Zoning Board approved their 3-0, was it under the belief that it was zoned for M2 already, or the land plan use was for it to be industrial?
The board did not discuss that in the meeting, so I can't answer that question. They did have the same copy of the staff report that you have.
That was a sticker point for me. If we had planned to use it industrial over the last 2 land planning sessions, that would mean a lot for me. But if we didn't plan to use it, if it was planned for residential, I just wondered if that had any effect on the board's decision then.
I was going to run down the factors
Sure.
very quickly with you all, because whatever motions is made need to consider these. And I know the sort of paragraphs of those are up, but in bullet points, the factors that you all would consider when making a motion, whatever that may be, would be suitability in view of nearby properties, adverse impact on nearby property, the reasonable economic use on as it's currently zoned, excessive burden on infrastructure, conformity with intent of land use plan, and existing or changing conditions affecting the use or development of the property. So as you make a motion, if you could just, whatever factors you believe are affected or relevant here, just sort of reference those, and I can run back down those bullet points if you need me to.
And may I just briefly respond, is that all right?
Yeah. Well, like I said, they might have some more. Any other questions? Sure.
Okay. Obviously, the creek, big deal, and we've talked about it. I think that's been covered pretty much at length. Vulcan's going to protect the creek. In fact, they're going to do more than what the regular federal and state government regulations require them to do because they want to be good neighbors. That's who they are. They care about the environments that they deal with all over the country where they have rock quarries and other projects going on. Property values were brought up. I will submit to you, there are no credible studies out there that say people who own property near rock quarries have lower property values. That's just simply not true. And I'd also say the fact is what Vulcan has found in its experience is property values around their quarries tend to go up because people want to get bought out. So property values, I would just tell you, I don't think that's an issue. That's not a real issue. So those are a couple of the main things. And then, again, I think Ms. Horkin, I believe is her name, spoke last. And she's got a good point. Vulcan has done a good job because that's what Vulcan does all over the country. They're well known. They're the nation's largest company that does this, and they care about where they are. They care about being good neighbors. They care about being good community partners. They're going to protect the stream just like they're protecting that cemetery. There's another cemetery which we, not that it matters that much, we thought they were talking about a different cemetery out there at P&Z meeting that Vulcan has already protected. It's actually on this piece of property close to Light and Tie Road. It's fenced off. They haven't messed with it. They're not going to mess with it because they care about doing the right thing. That's what Vulcan does. That's who they are. They're a good partner for this community. And I would submit to you, if you don't approve the rezoning, I mean, that will be a problem because now where do we go? Across Light and Tie Road? That's going to be a worse solution than this. And so I don't think Jones County wants that. Vulcan doesn't want that because that's not going to be good. But I'll be happy to answer any other questions anyone may have.
I've got a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I just pulled up the property map and everything. So y'all got 136 acres that's just north of this piece where the plant is here. I can't move the map, so.
We're going to talk about over this way?
Back this way.
Back this way?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's, before Cumslow Road, it's in between 49 and Cumslow Road, it's 136 acres.
Okay, I don't know if these maps are going to show it,
Right
but
there. That piece there with the pond and all on it.
You're talking about right here?
Up.
Okay,
Yeah,
above
well,
that
I think it's that one right there that you just pointed to.
It's the corner track. I'm looking at it too. It's on the corner.
Yeah, and they own everything to Cumslow Road there. Can you go that way with your growth?
And, okay, if you're talking, I'm not trying to.
Yeah.
If you're talking about this piece, I'm not sure. Are you telling me that Vulcan owns all of those
They own
pieces?
all of it, I
They
just
own all of
checked
those
it.
pieces?
Yep.
I don't know. That has not been in their planning phase, but now if you go that way, you're talking about that pond. And you've got another water source you're going to have to deal with. So I don't know that that's going to be necessarily a better solution, but I'll tell you, I've not discussed that with them, so I don't know what their thoughts are on potentially going that way.
So had you looked at all that right through there?
Right, I did. I pulled it up on the tax assessors. It's the corner track you're speaking of.
Yes, we do on that property. There's a couple of different, one, that is Norfolk Southern's main line. It comes down right between there. So we would have to navigate across that.
If you don't mind, step up to the microphone,
yes,
just
ma'am.
because we do have a lot of people that watch from
Yeah,
home,
right.
so they can hear you.
Yep. Thank you. We do own that land that they're speaking about that goes up to Cumslow.
That's the one, right?
Yes, yeah, that's the Norfolk Southern main rail line. And getting anything over or under that is extremely challenging, dealing with the rail folks. And also, those other acres on the other side are potential for mining on that side eventually. So ideally, we put overburden or anything like that as far as, I'm not saying we're going there, but we don't have that. We've got a 20-year plan right now. But that right there, we looked at it when we got here. We moved away from that just because of the waterways, the Norfolk Southern main line, and also the footprint that's over there is very, very small. Did that answer your question? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Sure, you get, absolutely. Try to keep everybody equal on time. If anybody that's been up here like to speak again, we'll definitely give you an opportunity.
I just want to reinforce that if the county has a land use plan in effect, and what good is it, I mean, if we have this land use plan and the county is supposed to be following that, why do we have a P&Z? I mean, and I disagree about he made the comment that the land values go up because people are trying to sell out. I don't want to sell out. I love where we live. I don't want to sell out. And I don't think all of the people around us won't sell out either. Thank you.
Anyone else? What's the board's decision tonight?
I'll throw my opinion out, Chairman, but I don't plan to make a motion of any type, but I will put my opinion out there that, you know, Ms. Simpson made a good point. We have these land use plans, and we put them in place, and we vote on them because we think they're there now. When we have these plans to come back and change those, that would be the time looking into the future of what we plan to do. So request from whether it's and I'll say this, I do support our folks at Vulcan because I think they're a huge economic driver. I don't dislike them like some people might, but I will say that their request is no more powerful than anybody else's than a landowner. So I'm two things. I'm not sold on the dire need for the property for overburden. And I do have concerns that this was not intended to be that type of land use then. So I don't see that changing it now is the right thing to do because there's a request. Now, if there's a change in the next land use meetings, then so be it. We'll cross that bridge there. I know what I call a wet weather creek. They may call it an intermittent creek, but a wet weather creek doesn't have that much drainage and that much dirt in it. It's got some growth in it because it has time to grow. Grass has time to grow when the water's not running. So if it's running all the time, there's dirt and rocks running in there. So I do have some concerns that there's water running there. I think, personal opinion, I think we need to look at another plan for overburden.
Mr. Desiring,
I want to ask Ashley this first before I make a motion. When making the motion to keep RR, does that automatically put out to allow additional overburden? Because it takes it completely out of the M2, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
go ahead.
In any motion, you may reference what factors you are relying on with your motion, so the record's clear.
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to deny the M2 status change on the RR residential area on the amendment at item A for the conformity to meet the intent use of the land use and to the adverse impact on the individual private property in the area.
Second.
Second. Any more discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. We got the next item, Mr. Straussky?
Chairman, I think we need to take a vote on item B as well.
Oh, okay.
Individual item.
Excuse me, I was still thinking we were doing them together.
All right, so I'll make another one. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a proposal to deny for item B, for the request for conditional use to allow additional overburden storage for quarry operations for the property located at Skinner and Light and Tie, and consisting of 699.3 acres, zoned M2.
Due to the same rezoning factors?
Right.
Based upon the same rezoning factors.
Second.
Second. Any more discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. All right. You've got another one on the agenda tonight?
Chairman, item C is a request from Betty Williams. This is to allow a second dwelling on a lot that is less than 10 acres in size. This is a conditional use in the R1 district. The standards there is if the property could be subdivided, then they can request this, allowing her to establish a home without subdividing the property. The Planning Commission has recommended approval of this request.
Is Ms. Williams here tonight?
Good evening. I am Betty Williams, and I have come before you to ask for conditional use of a second building to help with some living help, to help me with my 2 disabled siblings that I've been taking care of for the last 2 years with sporadic help, and I'm still working, and I really need some help on the property. I do use some agencies, but half the time they don't show up. So I'm trying to get it so that I have somebody there at all times. They cannot live on their own. One is totally bed-bound. The other one, he has mental issues, and he has cerebral palsy. That's all I have.
Nope.
What kind of housing is it gonna be? I mean,
Well, I have a garage that I want to convert into a 1-bedroom, like a garage apartment, studio apartment.
Any other question?
Motion to approve.
Anybody here today opposed
No.
for this?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you actually was somebody here for me.
Anybody opposed to this request tonight? If none, Commissioner Martin?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Let's have it. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
We move on to a consent agenda and approval for the minutes. We've got a call meeting on September 9th, 2021. Work session, September 21st of 2021, along with a third Tuesday in executive session.
Motion to approve all, Chairman.
All right.
second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
I've got it. Ms. Kara Moore, Highway 49 gym use.
Hello. I think I know all of you in one way or another, but tonight I'm coming to speak to you as board member and treasurer of the Jones County Youth Recreation Basketball League. The first thing I would like to do is thank you for your support last year and other years, for your donations to our program. Because of your donations, we allowed foster children this past year to play for free. None of them had to pay. We were also able to do financial hardships so that every kid in Jones County that wanted to play basketball, they got to play basketball last year. Your additional purchase of the management software, life-changing. We're no longer running the Youth Recreation Basketball League out of a dentist's office, and parents aren't having to take off work to drive all the way to Gray. If you live on 49, you want to sign your kid up for basketball, you go online. So thank you. That was a huge purchase. I know it was expensive, but that's going to serve the county for years to come. As you all know, our county's growing, and with that, our league is growing. We had nearly 300 kids last year play basketball, and I would argue that our basketball league is probably the most diverse picture of Jones County that you're going to get. So it's a great vehicle for our county to grow with. We had 36 teams, and that's a lot of kids. Wow. Wow. And we have to figure out where to put them. While football, soccer, baseball, softball, they all have multiple fields, at least 4, we have 1 gym. While we do have limited access to the Gray Station gym, we have to operate on their schedule. Their goals do not move, so it really only houses 8 of the 36 teams. So for the other 26 teams, we have 1 gym. In order for our collective program to grow and to continue to be effective, we have got to have more court space. We are only allowed to practice for the 2 weeks before the season starts. So the kids get 2 weeks of practice and then games start. You know, the goal of recreation is not winning and losing of games. It's teaching the fundamentals. It's the teamwork, and the kids aren't getting that. The number one complaint fielded from parents after our season, parents and taxpayers, was that the kids didn't get to practice enough. We had coaches wanting to practice. They're practicing in driveways, in cul-de-sacs, middle of the road, wherever they can get. So we really needed a place. We have to have more people. If we're going to allow every kid who wants to play, we got to have more space. So we went to Matt and asked what our other options were, and we really have none at this point. There is a gym at Mattie Wells, as everybody knows, and it's awesome that it is open to adults to play, and I do think that is an important asset to our county. But there's 56 weeks in a year. What we would like to ask of you is that for the 12 weeks of our season, we be granted partial use of that gym to have practices only. It's not big enough to have fans, but it would allow us to have from 6 to 9 in the evenings to house some practicing. Again, it would only be maybe 3 days a week and a couple hours on Saturdays. And then the adults can have it the other 44 weeks of the year, and they can even have it half the time during our season. But you can't blend open play and practicing with little kids. The little kids have to have 8-foot goals. If you keep those, you know, you can't have adults in there. It would be a slam fest. So it really has to be designated. We've talked to the recreation department, and they are willing to have someone man the gym, let everybody in, make sure that, you know, it's cared for, just like the Genesco gym. But in order for us to continue to allow the program to grow, we either are going to have to cut registration, turn kids away, or be given some kind of access to another court. So I would just respectfully ask if we could somehow work out an agreement to gain access to the Mattie Wells gym.
So, hello. How are you?
Hi.
49 Gym has been near and dear to my heart for a while because it was one of those labors of love to bring online because we only had one outdoor basketball court, and really one gym to play. And my kids played in the basketball league, and we had the same challenges. So I ended up with 2 basketball goals in my driveway and partnering with parents in the area to kind of get something going. I think we have an opportunity to look at Maggie Califf and a partnership to hopefully bring that gym online because I know we used it before. I know Gray Station is available at particular times. And the reason why I'm driving these points is because all of the gyms need to be brought online. Every year I fight for another basketball court and a few more spaces to play, and that's been the challenge. We just don't have enough spaces to play. So when Matt brought it to me, I said, hey, Matt, you know, I'm opposed to taking the weekday away because that's our only gym to play at. I left Saturdays open on purpose because I know that's our critical day for basketball leagues, and it's never been, I shouldn't say never, but it's really almost never been utilized. I don't know if you guys used it before on the Saturdays.
No,
Okay.
We've never had, you know, or known that we even had access to it on a Saturday.
So by design, I left it open on Saturdays so the leagues would have that from 8 until, because I know we had like 30 to 45 minutes for practice, which was silly. It took me longer to drive from, you know, South Jones up here and then back. So that was kind of my pushback because I do want to bring those other gyms online and hope that we can partner to make it happen. I don't know the situation or the status of the gym at the old high school. I don't know if it's an asbestos issue or
there's a
it's
leak,
floor
and so there. I know I talked to Coach Woolfolk as well as Takeo Gray, and there's a leak, and so if it's raining at all, you get wet, and if it rained the week before, the floor's wet. So that, you know, wasn't, you know, the problem with the middle schools and the high school is that our kids play on 8-foot goals, so they don't move. So we can't use any of the, you know, and I guess that's up to the principal, and we have to ask permission, of course, to use that. And Gray Station has been very gracious, so I don't, you know, we're thankful for that, but we do have to dodge any after-school activity. Their teams, of course, get priority for practice, anytime, you know, and any games or anything they have, but we can only allow our junior and senior leagues to play there, which is only 8 teams. So that leaves our other 26 teams having to go to a gym with, you know, mobile goals.
right? And that was, again, one of the reasons why Maggie Caleb's gym seemed like a great idea. And when we were buying the smaller goals some years ago, you know, I asked for those extras just because we could probably place them at those locations to make it a good fit. I don't know that there's a great solution for it, but I know that if we all work together, we can get there. I'm just not really a fan of giving up 3 days during the week when you could absolutely have the entire gym on Saturdays. And it's staggered play. I don't know how many teams will have to play on Saturday, but I know we would split the gym in half and we would practice during those times.
But you're wanting it just for the practice aspect, not for the game
Right,
day.
there's no way to have, I have gone up there on Sunday on open play and tried to let my little girls play, but, you know, you have teenagers and it's open, so it didn't go very well. But we want to just have practice, and they do have the mobile goals, so if we're going to use it, we kind of like need blocks of time. You don't want to just have 1 hour, like you said, by the time we rolled the goals up and rolled them back down. So ideally, you know, if we maybe in the preseason just had a few nights during the week, that's really when we're trying to get the most practices in. And we'd be practicing everywhere. We would be practicing at Genesco, because right now the teams, like I said, they get about 3 practices and then games start. And once the games start, there's no practice.
No Saturday practice.
No, we do. Genesco is from 8 a.m. till 8 p.m. on Saturdays. And we're still, and we're doing half court. It'd be great if you know, basketball's full court sport. You know, it would be nice if we could get a full court, but right now we can only do practices. You know, like I say, I think it's 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. is how, I mean, you know, it's hopping up there. But like I said, we have a short season. We have to get everything in after football and before All-Stars start, which is the first week in February. So you're trying to squeeze 36 teams having 10 games and a playoff and 3 or 4 practices in 12 weeks. And Keo Gray is our scheduler, and I don't know how he does it. He does a phenomenal job. But I mean, he has to tell the coaches, sorry, man, you get 2 practices and then you're going to go, you know, and he's tried. He says there's no more room. We're going to have to cut teams. And I don't want to do that.
Matt, Commissioner Vaughn asks, what are 2 slowest days at Matty Wells?
It's truly a hit and miss. It would be hard to say what your slowest days are. I mean, honestly, you could go on one Monday, there'd be 20 people playing. You could go back the very next Monday, it'd be 50 people. So some days you may have a dozen. On a Wednesday, the very next Wednesday, you'd have 40.
What is the biggest time frame that they're there?
Probably it gets the heaviest about 7:30.
And typically our practices are held, you have an hour, so you have a 6, 7, and 8. 8's tough because those little kids have to go to bed. So we try to get all the little guys in at 6 and 7. You know, I don't know, what time does it close?
9.
What time's it? 9, yeah.
Yeah.
So we typically utilize a 3-hour, you know, there's 3 hours that we practice.
So could they practice earlier?
Could they do a 5 to 6, 6 to 7?
I mean, parents just can't get there.
Sure, they got to get off work.
I mean, you know, like I said, I mean, I can't get there, but I mean, really 6 o'clock is
Early.
I think the earliest anybody who's working in Macon or where else can get back.
I just look at the lines at Matty Wells and Gray Station. There are a lot of parents off between 2 and 5 o'clock.
And then getting the coaches off is another problem, so.
Hey, I'm at a bus stop at 4 o'clock, so I get it.
So, honestly, this is a great problem to have.
It is,
The fact that we've grown a basketball program this much in the few short years that we've been here, that doing this, and you've been a part of that, that is amazing. So, but I'm a little confused. I know the issues of having smaller children and bigger teenagers or even adults playing and the heights of the goals, but are not some of the same kids that are playing free play, are they the same kids that are in our basketball program?
Well, Keo is my go-to man. He couldn't be here tonight. He coaches. Runs me. Jenny Benton, excuse me. Me, her, and Keo are kind of the ones who do most of it. And he goes up to free play. I've only been up there when I tried to take my team up there. And he said that it seems to him that it slows down once basketball season starts, because you have those older teenagers, they play school ball and they're going to the games. Like that's basketball season. And so according to Keo, and I can quote him, he won't mind, he said that that is probably the slower time that the gym is utilized, because they are playing. Our senior boys go up to 16, yeah. So we're allowing them to play up to 16. So a lot of those kids who don't make school ball, this is what recreation's for, is to give them another outlet. So I think 100% a lot of those kids are coming to play in our program, or they're playing at the high school, so they're practicing at the high school gym.
It's good. I just think we got to figure out a way to make it happen, because I really don't want to put more importance on free play, smaller kids, teenagers, or adults. I mean, they're all our kids in the community, and they all got to be able to. But the fact that we're promoting this sport, and that we have got kids active going into this basketball program, we need to do everything we can to do that. So when you said, I was making notes when you first started, 3 nights a week, could that be Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, we could do that. I think that would be a good compromise. We did, if we can have, I was asking for just a few hours on Saturday. If he says we can have it all day on Saturday, I think that would, really, we would only need it 2 other days. I think that would be, if we could just get it 2 evenings and all day Saturday, that would be awesome.
So if we alternate Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, and have Monday, Wednesday, and Friday open play, or?
We're negotiating that right now.
We're talking about it over here.
I'm gonna make a motion, Chairman.
And the tournament, the All-Star tournament starts, I'll have to look at the exact date, but it's like the second weekend of February. And so meaning that's when we have to be through with games, because our All-Star teams go. And then there's not as many teams. They can all practice at Genesco. So once the regular season's over, everything goes back to the Genesco gym.
Would they be practicing the whole time after games start? Do they practice?
Well, in the past, we've never had a single practice after games start. That's the
Kids
problem.
can't really learn just
Right.
playing.
I mean, I wanted to teach mine an inbounds play. I took them to the complex, and that didn't go well either, because they're 9-year-old girls. So I was like, sorry, guys, I was here first. I mean, and I'm not afraid to be nice to the boys and say, hey, dude, just give me 30 minutes, But a lot of coaches, they don't have a goal in their driveway. I mean, or they don't live in a neighborhood. I mean, that they have access. So the coaches were calling, and they were like, where can I practice? And I mean, I said, try to go to the Highway 18 complex and beg them to give you just 30 minutes to put in an inbounds play. So once in the past, once games started, there were 0 practices unless you had them in your yard. What we would like to do as we're growing the program is to have more practices in the preseason. Instead of having 2 or 3 practices for a game start, having 4 or 5 at least. And then once the season starts, you might have a practice like every other week. You'll be given an hour, because it's not enough for, you don't want to overdo it.
How many games? 2 games a week?
They play an average of 10 games, and it's over like a 10-week, period. So sometimes it's one, you may have a Tuesday and a Saturday. Keo does a really good job of, we have to get referees, and you have to dodge high school schedules and middle school. I mean, he does a really nice job. So what we would like is, once the season started, that like every other week, the 36 teams would have, hey, you can practice at Matty Wells Gym Tuesday at 6 and 7 and 8. And then you can practice at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we would like to give the coaches at least maybe 3 practices during the season. I mean, that would be 96 court hours that we need. So, I mean, it's just, we got kids coming out our ears.
See, it's a good problem to have.
It is.
It is. We don't want to cut teams. We don't want to any kids playing.
Man,
Kids need to have
can I
priorities.
tell you?
Adults can play at any
Come on, I
time.
need a motion from you, Daylon.
So we've done a pretty good job. We're about an hour off. So let me ask this question before I make this motion. So I love kids.
Put him on the spot.
Yeah. My goodness. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to need that extra court that we're talking about.
You got 2 coming.
I need one more so we can have extra space here with some portables. Some
the
more.
old high school
Next year.
too.
Thank you. All right. So, she wants me to go to 8, and I'm asking, can we go 5 to 7? And the only reason I'm asking that, because I don't know the true play. And I know Keto's out there, I've been out there, and it's been packed. And to your point, it may do that thing during basketball season. But I think that's also the season where more little kids come out because the big kids are gone. So 5 to 7.
I just don't think that coaches can get there.
Coaches can't get there. All right,
I mean,
fine.
you know, like I said, I beg, I mean, and you can put this in the paper that we need more coaches, big bold letters. You know, we are begging, borrowing, I mean, you know, so, I mean, I just don't think the coaches could get there. I mean,
I gotcha. All right, but can I still give them that 5 o'clock in case coaches can't get there? We'll go 5 to 8.
I mean, if you want to open it up, I mean, we can say, hey, whoever wants 5 o'clock practice, sign up here. If it wants, but the 6, 7, and 8 are the ones that usually the coaches want. They're
I
asking
gotcha.
for.
But in case parents get there, parent coaches, right? So can we do 5 to 8? Would that be okay?
So you wouldn't have an 8 to 9 practice?
So then, like, free play would come in at 8?
Yes, they get a whole hour on those 2
Okay.
days. All right,
5
so
So you can give them 3 days?
tell Bo I
But do we
said
get
thank
3
you.
days? 3 days, 5 to 8?
2 days.
Or 2 days,
2 days
6
and
to
all
9?
day Saturday.
I never had a negotiation like this before. We're
So
talking
let's
about
make a
kids,
motion.
ain't, how many
You know-
months to it? I
Yeah, we're
mean,
talking about kids.
So they gotta,
Talking
Give
about
them
the
a
babies.
full day.
I've been
Come on,
fighting for
those
those
little
kids for
babies.
years. Thank y'all for joining on board. My goodness.
this is how you get us on board. Get 300 kids in.
Yeah, all right. So,
your program's working, you support it.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're going to need 3 courts. So he's the guy that's going to help us with these other people to get more courts.
Oh, yeah,
All
it'd be great if we could expand the Genesco and put 2 courts inside. I mean, you know, but
We need to look at.
we got to
bringing
work with what we got right now.
We need to look at bringing on some
we need
additional
to
gyms
definitely-
next year.
All right.
Maybe the old high school or Maggie Kaler.
Old high school's got rotten.
Does it?
Yeah,
Okay.
and like I said, that came from Coach Woolfolk.
bad. It's
Tried
all
to
over the
do it because actually the Gray Station Middle School and Clifton Ridge actually used the Genesco Government Center gym from like 3:30 to 5:30. Yeah, so there and there. That's why we get to use Gray Station's gym. You know, like that was kind of our.
Do that. We got portables. Yeah. All right. So Tuesdays and Thursdays from 5 to 9, and Saturdays all day. And we're going to ask Matt to try and work with the board to get Maggie Califf open as well, because we need more space. Period.
Sounds good to me.
All right.
That's
I have a motion.
Second.
Second.
Second. All in favor, aye, before he changes his mind.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dale.
You're welcome. Oh,
Y'all going slow
oh,
tonight.
amazing.
Yeah, we're
All
getting,
right, next.
all right, Shirley Rivers,
Wait,
Linda Hurst.
pause.
3
Hold
courts.
on a second.
What did they do?
That wasn't on the agenda to be voted on, unfortunately.
Oh,
Dr. Moore was just a visitor.
that's right.
So,
Commissioner
Well,
Martin,
we
you
got
wanna
a
rescind your
consensus.
vote?
that is a moot vote.
It was a consent.
It's a consent item. It's done. So be it.
I
So mote it
think,
be.
I mean, really,
I'm-
you can just direct your department head to structure it that way.
Rescind.
I rescind my
You're not-
previous motion.
It's a moot
Yeah.
vote, so,
Rescind
yeah.
y'all second. Thank you, Dale.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Daylon.
you.
That was very generous
Thank
out of your heart.
all of you. We're going to find space for that 3rd basketball court with some mini. I love it. York Peppermint
All
Patty.
right, next
we're gonna put these-
visitor. I gotta move y'all along tonight.
Okay, I've got a Shirley Rivers, Linda Hurst, Wayne and Paula Bowden. I understand Mr. Bowden's going to speak all about the private road clarification on Gordon Road.
I didn't know you had, I wasn't aware that you had capability of PowerPoint on the screen, so I made some. Is that okay?
That's just fine.
And by the way, I'm Wayne Bowden, 310 Gordon Road. Those people that, and Wendy, it's good to see you.
You too.
Um,
Been a while.
It's been a long time. Can I just hand this one?
Yes, and
off?
we'll pass.
Please. This is one of those problems that I hate to bring towards you guys, but that was the only way I knew how to solve it. We have you see the private road sign and no trespassing signs that you see on the front. That actually exists on our road. And by the way, I do have Shirley Copeland and my wife, and also a visitor, my other sister-in-law, Louise Beckworth. Linda couldn't come because she was sick tonight. Spent the night in the emergency room in Macon, so she didn't come. So those signs are a half a mile in from Highway 11 approximately, and that's where we contend that the public road ends. In 1976, I have some information about the history that my mother-in-law, who has passed on, was generous and gave her daughters, each one of her daughters, 13.5-acre tracts. And we needed access to that property. She had it surveyed, had a roadway created across the front of the properties, but we needed access to that roadway. So she worked with Mac Davis for the Davis properties that own the property to the right, and then of course Miss Gordon on the property to the left going down the hill. And you can see a map in there that I pulled off your webpage to show where Gordon Road is. And you can also see a green or blue square on there. That happens to be Shirley's property where she lives, which is right where the private property begins. We have had problems. Gordon Road has really grown up a lot. There's some new houses, and with that you get people wanting to play, and we got some kids that want to ride their motorbikes and golf carts and four-wheelers, and some of them's not kids. And the one that I'm dealing with is not a kid. He's telling people that it is a public road and that he got it confirmed by someone here. I'm not sure who that would have been, and it may have been just lying to me. I don't know. So we would like to have a sign, if we can get it, that says this is the end of public road access, where our property begins, our roadway begins. Now that roadway serves all of the sisters that own the property on that road, and it also serves a new member that bought the property that was once the Mac Davis property, or Davis family property. So he certainly gets access. All that was agreed upon back in 1976. So for 45 years we have maintained that portion of the road that used to be old Five Points Road, which was abandoned at some point in time, long before then, when they built the new Five Points Road that exists now. So we reopened it and made connection to the roadway that we needed to go across the front of the property that you can see there, I guess. So what we would like to do, if we can do it and get the commission to agree, is to put up a sign that would tell anyone that's going down there that you're at the end of the public road. Is that something that could be done?
Have we got a sign like that we can put up, John, or order?
I'm sure we can order any kind of sign.
It's sort of like what the county did when they closed Oliver Green Road at Green Settlement. Basically, this is the end of public access. It had a stop sign there. Private property beyond this point.
And I know
Or private
from
drive.
turning buses around there so many times in the Copeland driveway, that it is plainly marked with private property signs on actually both sides of it right there.
We haven't really had a lot of problems. You know, sometimes we'll get someone wanting to sell something to come down, and we want to not encourage that. We want to discourage anyone coming from certain churches to evangelize us, and because we all have our own Christian beliefs, and we don't need that kind of visitation. But those are pretty easy to deal with. We just tell them you're on a private road, and they usually go.
Mr. Wood?
I made a site visit out today, and I rode all the way to the end of the private portion of Gordon Road, and it was decently well maintained. The ditches were in decent shape, and road was well gravelled, actually better than the county side. So I think the residents have, I'm just saying, it was covered with a nice coat of 57s, and I didn't get any mud on my truck. It's decently, it's been well-maintained. I know Ed and Maudlin Smith over the years have done, and
Yeah,
every
they-
resident out there has done their fair share of maintaining that private drive.
Today wasn't a good day with all the rain, and we got a little washing
Right.
of that 57. We think about putting something heavier on next
Right,
time.
but it's in good shape.
I think I think we can solve your problem pretty quick. Just give John a little time to get the proper signage, and administratively they can handle it for you.
Okay, I really appreciate it. I knew it was going to be easy. Just needed to get somebody's
You're welcome
attention.
anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And God bless y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We want to add the new agenda now or at the end of the,
I think you need to add it at the end.
at the end? Okay. Now, Mr. Black, you got us an update on Maggie Kayla.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Appreciate the board's time for listening,
Sure.
for information, and an update on where we are. Prior to integration, there were at least 30 black designated schools in the county. Maggie Caliph was built, Idella Duncan was built, and Bradley Wayside. So we were all consolidated. Again, back in that century, I was in the 5th grade. So I came to Caliph as a 5th grade student, and I graduated from Caliph. As you can see, I'm a rattler. My second year teaching was at Maggie Caliph. I taught 5th grade. And that was the year before we integrated. And I left Maggie Caliph and went to the high school. Mrs. Collins, who was the granddaughter of Maggie Caliph, was my principal when I was 5th grade teacher. Zenola Hardeman Swain, another one, a granddaughter of Maggie Caliph, was a librarian. While being on the housing committee and then GET team, we had a chance to visit surrounding counties to see how they were utilizing old schools. Usually those were the old black schools that had been closed. One in particular stuck in my mind was Hubbard High School up in Forsyth, because Caliph played Hubbard. That school had been turned into an incubator for businesses. There was a Boys and Girls Club there. There were several other types of businesses and use for communities. Down in Edenton, one of the schools is a museum for the entire Putnam County. Also, in that particular site, governmental entities in the city were using the space. County commissioners, Board of Education, and City Council who needed more room. At that time, we did a survey to see exactly how people felt in Jones County. How could we reuse Caliph when it would eventually close? And we got more questions about the possibility of senior housing, because we had also gone to several of the schools in Bibb County that had been turned into senior housing. Other things that the survey said that veterans who couldn't get to Warner Robins, if there was some place that they can go to have the blood pressure checked, or for diabetes, or just cursory medical attention. Veterans Administration said they could possibly look at Caliph, a room or two at Caliph. At that time, it was, I'm like I said, last century medical center, but now it's what, Atrium now. They had also suggested or thought about the possibility of utilizing a space in the building for, again, cursory medical checks. Another thing that they had that came up with the survey was a place for senior citizens to exercise. A lot of senior citizens were intimidated going to the gyms because all these people, all this muscular tone kind of intimidated them. But they had a place that they could feel comfortable, and I'm again in that category with all my implants and arthritis, that I can feel comfortable in exercising and not trying to be cold my breath in and kill myself while I was there. Central Georgia Technical College also said that they could use some of the space for community type educational purposes. Apart from the career center that's at the high school now, there will be opportunities for the people in the community to come in and learn computer skills, those type things. With the gym and the lunchroom there, it's an ideal place for reunions, for all types of gatherings of that nature. Some of the things that we learned as we were visiting other counties and see how they reused the properties was that, I can't think of the county right now, but the city council and the county commissioners leased the building from the Board of Education for $1 a year. I thought that was nice. And think about the capabilities of reusing that building. It's still in very good shape as it is now. When we talked with the Board of Education, they were talking about expanding. This was prior to COVID, but for summer use, summer purposes, doing a year for remediation. And when I look at what COVID has done as far as being a retired educator, I'm thinking about, excuse me, how much time was lost for kids who could not, families who could not afford computers for their kids. How much educational time was lost in these last 2 years for these kids. It would be an ideal place. The place is there. It has the capability, already the hookups for computers. So all I'm asking, what we're asking as the Alumni Association, that's who I'm representing, is that the part of CALIF that's adjacent to the office where the business ed classes were, if that could be leased to us on a yearly basis for memorabilia for Old Maggie CALIF and for the other 40 schools that were in the county prior. A place for us to meet and a place for the Rattler spirit to still rattle. I just want you guys to consider that as a possibility of reusing that building. We'd hate to see it just fall like Idella Duncan. It's just falling in. Because that was one of the, excuse me, this is allergy season with ragweed, so please forgive me. But when we looked at Idella Duncan, we had looked at a CHIP grant that we got for the GET team, but the asbestos had to be cleaned out. And the problem we ran into with Idella Duncan, as far as the houses around that and that school itself, we had planned it to be turned into a community center, was that the houses that we were going to revitalize, we didn't have clear, the residents didn't have clear property titles. Yep. And that has been a problem. So I'm glad now we are partnering with the GET team, with the Boys and Girls Club, and we're going to do some financial planning to help these people make sure they have clear titles, wills, and that type of thing. But I just wanted to update you and for you to consider the possibilities of using CALIF. And whomever ends up purchasing or buying or leasing it, that you will let us consider that little part, that little space that we can rent for Maggie CALIF Alumni Association and the other 40 schools that were part of this county. Thank you for your time. You guys, I really appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you. We got a golf tournament, Mr. Resner. Not really you, Matt Goins, excuse me. I just threw you under the bus and didn't know it, did you? I made you jump though, didn't I? Yeah. I looked at you and thought, gotta keep you on your toes. Yeah.
Well, good evening, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to, oh, it's right here. We talked about at the last meeting, and the department had comments about golf tournaments on Saturdays at the golf course. And so I had to bring it back to be voted on. I'm going to run through the golf tournaments that we have every year. These are the ones that generally come back year after year. We have the Sheriff's Office Tournament, which is on a Monday. The Chamber of Commerce Tournament, which is on a Friday. those are the only ones that are up, I'm sorry, Jones County High School Golf Tournament, which is also on a Friday. So those three are, one's on a Monday, two's on a Friday. Everything at now is going to be Saturdays. Jones County High School softball team, the Moose Lodge, Kiwanis Club, one of the fire stations, I can't remember the number right now. It's the one that Daniel Jones is a part of.
Station 6.
Station 6.
We
Uh,
we know that, Don, don't we?
And then the Georgia College one that we just had that I brought it to you. So those are the tournaments that we have residual year after year, and the ones on Saturdays that I just mentioned, that tend to cause a conflict. So we're back and, was looking what time of the year that most of these tournaments happen on Saturdays. The ones that are on Saturdays generally fall starting in August, and they go from August into early November. So they're mainly this time of the year, not really spring or summer. So someone had mentioned possibly breaking it down to just one a quarter, which would be fine. I just have to go through these particular ones and tell them to prepare themselves to move to different calendar months. But again, the reason I brought it to you before was because of the membership that we have, having issues with not being able to play on Saturdays. Now, to be transparent, nothing stops them from playing in these tournaments. That would be something they would have to do. Of course, it's an additional fee outside their membership cost. But they do have the right. They're not being, not allowed to play. So not that they can't play the course, they just can't play the course during the times of the tournament or on their own membership account and have to pay extra to play in the tournaments. So I'm bringing it to you. The option would be one, don't have Saturday tournaments anymore. I've spoken with multiple courses around us, and they don't do Saturday tournaments unless it pertains to their members, like a member guest, or club championship, for that very reason. The other option would be go back to just one per every 3-month quarter. So we break the year down in 3-month quarters, and then you would have one tournament per quarter on a Saturday. So they could either move to a Friday or a Monday and play.
I mean, you're the resident expert on this. What you think would be the best solution to this?
I would like to see them move to Mondays and Fridays and get off Saturdays altogether. I know that affects some people, like the Jones County High School softball team, moved from Memorial Day weekend to early August, and that tournament's been very successful for them, so that may hurt them moving to a Monday or Friday. The fire department tournament would probably be okay on a Friday versus a Saturday morning. The only other one that may have an issue would be the Moose Lodge. The reason behind the Moose Lodge one is, the Kiwanis too, because the Kiwanis Club is for Boy Scout Troop 485. So that fundraiser for them would be challenging to get the Boy Scouts involved on a Friday or a Monday. So that would affect them. The Moose Lodge would affect them because there's a 2-day tournament. They hold Saturday at Bowden, Sunday with us, or Saturday with us, Sunday with them. They flip-flop.
Question.
Mhm.
How long have these tournaments been going on?
The Moose Lodge came on board around 2016, 15, 16. The Kiwanis has been a while. Softball team has been a while. Sheriff's office, obviously, they're not in effect there. Fire station, probably 5 years, maybe 6 years, they've been doing it. Most of all these, except for the Georgia College one, who's only been there 2 years, everybody else has probably been 5 years plus.
I'm just inclined to support what's been working. These groups have been probably supporting the golf course almost as long as some of the members have, right?
Agree.
And the members have grown around those tournaments. And I don't know what the complaints have been, because literally until this moment right here, in 9 years, I've never heard of a complaint about a golf tournament.
Agree.
So I'm not inclined to change that, just because of the impact that it has and the benefits, I think, to the course and and the people that have been supporting them. That's just me personally. It's simple for me. Keep what's working, and I think our members, with the exception of probably the Georgia College one, which is the newest one, which is the one they have the complaint about, maybe make some concession with regard to that particular tournament, whether it's free or half off, figure that part out. But I don't want to go change what's been working, personally speaking.
And are they every weekend back to back to back to back?
No, ma'am.
So you've got like maybe one weekend this month and one weekend the next month?
We have 2 in August, 1 in September, 2 in October, and 1 in November.
So the biggest complaints came against when the college fraternity
Correct.
tournament came in for all the members. If it's
Why
supporting
that?
Jones,
Right,
if it's
right.
supporting Jones County fundraising,
Correct.
the members don't have a problem with it.
Seems that way.
And that's a legitimate.
I get it.
I mean, especially if there's a golf course in their own community.
Exactly.
that
There's
they're-
two in
that-
theirs.
That they're not using. I do have a question about the Kiwanis Club though. Theirs has been for some time, and there's always been a question about. So the Kiwanis Club donated the land for the golf course years ago. I understand is that.
So that goes all the way back to the 30s, or even probably before that. But the Kiwanis had it first, then it went to the Pilot Club, and then we got it from the Pilot Club in the 70s. When I say we, Board of Commissioners.
And we bought it from the Pilot Club, or did they donate it to us?
I think it was given, according to the minutes me and Mr. Jason found, it was giving to the Board of Commissioners so that they would start maintaining it at the time. We have a sheet, I actually have a sheet I can get to you. It kind of breaks down the history of it.
The clubhouse part of it?
No, the
That-
golf course, the
yeah.
property that the course is on.
It was a work in progress administration project in the 30s, and so I guess the federal government acquired it.
Okay.
Some way.
Because I knew the history on the Kiwanis and the clubhouse, because they raised the money for a lot of, I don't know if it was originally or for renovations, but I knew that. That's why the big Kiwanis emblems in there, and it's why they have their meetings and all that, but I didn't know the history on if they gave the property to the county for a golf course, then, we probably don't want to kick them off their.
That's
That's
not.
the story I've heard, because they've been having tournaments there for like 35-plus years. That's
Long
what I
time.
remember.
We think, you got the motion? Don't fix it.
I mean, we can go no action and leave as is.
All right.
I'll
I mean, that's-
do that.
Motion.
Do it have to have a motion on that?
Yeah.
I make a motion that we leave your tournaments running like they are.
Okay.
Just not book every weekend in the month for a tournament. Keep it Jones County fundraising.
Gotcha.
All right, so I need a second.
I was okay with just keep it as is.
Well, he said we had to have a motion.
I've got a lady to my right that if I don't get a motion, is gonna make me
Well,
ask
just
for
let
it.
it, you can let it
It can die for a lack of
You
motion.
can die for a lack of
That's
second.
fine.
Let it
Die for
die.
lack of second. Keep going, Matt. All right, let's move on. Your turn, Ashley. We got
We're getting delirious up here now.
yeah.
Dinner time.
I got one to my left, one to my right, no backhand if we don't get out of here.
Just like the
All
longest
right,
meeting.
Clinton Trail Grants application, Ms. Brody.
I know, but it feels like we've been in here for 3 days.
That's what I'm trying to-
All right, so,
Motion to approve.
Dismiss, adjourn.
You're going to complete the application, right?
well, I don't know anything about the application itself. I was just gonna talk to you about that would,
The property.
that would be, I don't think it's not actually talking about the application. I think it's on here to discuss the little, length of roadway. Is that correct? You don't have anything about the application that needs to be talked about, okay. So, it is a bit of a confusing situation. So the clerk's records go back to 1980. I'm gonna have to get up there and research past that, but old deed records from 1980 refer to that portion of road as Old Clinton Wayside Road. which before that was new, which is the oldest version of it. Then it was New Clinton Wayside Road, and now it's Green Settlement, okay? So there's a 1980 deed that indicates that was a roadway. There's a warranty deed in 85 and a survey that indicates that those portions of the road at some point between 80 and 85 were no longer open to the public, had been closed. So the question is if it was ever public or if it was just an easement. And if it was public, at what point did it cease to be public, and is that still owned by Jones County, or at this point, just by prescription, have the adjoining property owners sort of assumed ownership? So the answers would be in records prior to 1980, which is not available on the clerk's website. We're going to have to do some digging into that. So historical aerials show that was a dirt road in 1954. But again, I can't get access to the deed work without going up there and researching it. There is, and that dirt road had a dead end into the property that's immediately north of Jake's Woods. Also in 1980, the city obtained a 15-foot easement over the land right there at the bottom edge of Jake's Woods to install and access that well that you all saw on the plat. The owner of Jake's Woods at that point also obtained an easement from the city to build a private roadway over top of their easement. So that indicates, at least in 1980, there was no public access, and Jones County did not own that roadway at the time that the city decided to obtain the easement. I say all that to say it's a bit of a mess, and it would be my suggestion to add, and you all can do this by vote, it's a public meeting that was properly advertised, to add the topic of real estate to executive session this evening. As if you all wanted to say any longer.
All right. Motion. We got to amend the.
When there's a motion to go into executive
Yeah, we'll do it.
session, we
Okay,
can do
good.
that then.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, we don't need it right now. All right, anything else on that?
Yeah,
No.
Chairman.
Well,
No, we were talking about the access
right.
going into there and all, but we also were on a timeline for application of the grant funding.
And Jason may have an update on that.
Yeah, so are we gonna?
So there was kind of two different things we were talking about there. One dealt with the Jake's Woods parcels, doing a trail around those, doing some access to the boulders inside there. And so this issue was relevant to that because we've got to have access to those. And so that was part of, oh, thank you, sorry. That was part of the discussion there. The other part, there was some discussion about doing another grant application for the recreational trails grant program for trails sort of on the Tanyard site there. And so, there had been talk about access, trying to tie the two together and different things there. So there's, in terms of our deadlines and that type of thing, the Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Program application, which would do the Jake's Woods Trail, that's due a week from Friday. And so we're actively working on that one. Met with Tim and Greg Boyke earlier this afternoon to kind of plan that out. The other grant is due at the end of this month. The recreational trails grant will be due at the end of this month to do trails there on the Tanyard site. Some of that work was done, I think, in a master plan that they created some years ago. So there may be something to work with there. In talking to Greg Boyke, I don't know that they'd be able to help us considering the short time frame on that one. I can certainly try to put it together myself, if the board wants me to, or we could just wait until another grant cycle on that, so.
I know we looked at the two different grants, the golf and the trails grant, and our intent was hopefully to connect Tanyard Trails to Jake Woods. That access is gonna be tough, so we looked at alternate as the, other ways to get in there type thing. I thought we were supporting, I know we already voted on the golf grant, but I thought we were looking at, as if we were gonna support the application for the trail system in the Tanyard side. Not the Tanyards and not the preservation of it, but the trail system, to have a full trail system through there.
And have them serve as the applicant, or?
I don't know that they can. I think the county has to apply for it, and I think that was the request or the intent was to apply for it. And I support that. I was hoping that the board would support the application, because I know if we don't, then it's another 2-year grant. 2 years on that cycle, right? Golf grants every year.
So you think you can put it together?
I can give it a whirl.
Let's go ahead and do it in the motion.
Make a motion that we approve an application for the Trails Grant, Tanyard Trail System.
Second.
Second, any more discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
May I offer a quick comment about the old road bed?
Yes, please.
Yes.
I spoke with Mr. Roland Ross, who is a longtime Clinton resident. He owns the property to, if you're going north, he owns the property to the right.
Yes, ma'am.
His input was that when the road was closed back as early as the 50s, then it was divided between the adjoining property owners. So the houses to this side got half
That's
of
what
it,
it
and Mr.
appears to
Ross
have
got half of
happened.
it. And when we were doing the trail mapping walk with John Simmons, we found a culvert, I'm gonna call it a culvert, it's over a dry creek bed above Bray Branch that actually has been repaired, and in the concrete is handwritten Jones County 1940, it's either 45 or 42, my mind went flippy, but it's in there, so the county was working on that road at that point. And Roland's comment was that it used to go down there and go across the creek on a wooden bridge. So there is some anecdotal information, at least, that does support that that was certainly a used county road back in the day.
Yeah, that's what it appears to be, but I couldn't access the deed work from the 50s. That at some point, when it ceased to be used, it was relinquished back to the adjoining property owners.
I could ask Mr. Ross if he has any deed work that he might have on hand, and I'd be happy to do
If
that.
he comes
that would
across
help.
anything, if he doesn't mind calling my office, that'd be great.
I'll be glad to ask him
Thank
that.
you, Darlene.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on. Commissioner Martin, package sales referendum.
I'll be brief. It's been long overdue. So what I'm going to ask the board to do is support a referendum to put packaged sales on the next ballot.
Any questions for Commissioner Martin?
No questions, I just think
Premature.
we're too late for putting it on the ballot.
Well, we asked the question. I wasn't sure the timing of it.
Right, it's gonna have to be put on the gubernatorial 22 election, so maybe something to bring up next year,
Well,
closer to time.
I would just assume before we forget, get it over with. We're here.
I don't have no problem with it, but I think we're a little premature on it.
Sad to be late, too.
I know, but I'm thinking if we wait till right before the next election, they might run change something by then. They change.
Okay.
Yep. All right, move on. Redistricting discussion. Mr. Ritter?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I just kind of wanted to sort of throw this issue out there. Not asking you guys to spend a whole lot of time working on it tonight or discussing it, but it is something that we've got just around the corner, and census information is starting to be made available, and so that process can get started. We'll have to work through that process here, and I think in talking to Marion, typically the Board of Commissioners and the Board of Education lines have been the same. So and I don't think that's a requirement, but just something that y'all may want to keep in mind as we work through that process. And just some things to throw out for you to think about. Do we want to? So we're working up towards the legislative session that starts in January. So one of our representatives will have to introduce a bill to put into place new maps, and traditionally I think how that's worked is that those lines have been worked out here. This board or any board would agree on lines, how they'd be drawn. That would be presented to your local legislative delegation, and then they have the authority to introduce whatever map they want to, but hopefully they would go along with whatever maps you present to them and introduce them. And so just a couple things to think about there. Just kind of be thinking about how you want that process to look, and do we want to engage a consultant to draw maps, or we've got the folks at the Capitol in Atlanta that are happy to help with that, or do we want to try to do that internally? Do you even want to make any changes? Do we want to look at changes? Population change here was minimal, and it declined. It may be a situation where, as long as it hadn't shifted within the county, maybe you don't have to make any changes. So just throwing all that out there for your consideration, and be happy to look into any resources or do anything else that the board sees fit on that. So.
Can you send us the census data and what shifts or changes have happened with the population by district?
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Anything else? All right, we'll move forward. Voting delegate for ACCG policies from Councilman Wagner.
I need for y'all to decide who the voting delegate will be for the 2021 business session for ACCG.
Don't matter to me. We'll be there.
Makes sense. Chairman.
Chairman?
Second.
I love all of y'all. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Vote? No, I'm not going to say it.
Nick.
Yeah, I got it. All right. Safety program incentive budget, Ms. Wagner.
I think during our budget time, I think that this was overlooked. Usually $3,000 is given to the safety program for the safety committee, Charles Cook, to give out incentives, if you want to talk about, to employees. I know our workers' comp premiums are down approximately $100,000 this year from year 2016. So the budget that usually is given for the safety incentives is $3,000, and that, I think it was just overlooked when we were doing.
Motion to add $3,000 for the safety. 3,000.
It's three.
3,000.
Yes. Second.
So we got,
Thank you.
all right, so we got a
Motion,
okay.
it was second.
Yeah, so okay, I was gonna make sure.
Yeah, we're good.
All
Let's
right,
go.
good. You said 30, I'm going.
No, 3,000.
Oh, okay, that's sorry.
Yeah.
I thought he said.
I read it.
I thought he said 30.
No, I said
You
3.
didn't hear me going up at 30.
3. The
We
most
got a
they
second
used was
for 30. All in
9,000.
favor, aye?
Aye.
Yeah, you can hit me off guard, I'm going.
No.
30.
We
Well,
need
y'all
more.
is gonna be dancing.
We need more basketball courts.
Oh, okay. All right, where we at? We're on the COVID policy, Ms. Wagner?
Commissioner Martin had asked for us to bring a COVID policy to the board. And I provided the guidelines that we use. I don't know if you had the chance to look at what we have been using. And Jason had put the guidelines together that we go by, when there's any kind of COVID situation.
And my apologies, Shannon. What I wanted us to do, because on the previous agenda, we had those things that we were going to vote on to kind of parse it out, because it looked like we may agree on a couple items, but we had some challenges with whether or not you're going to pay people for when they were out, or pay if they had a vaccine or if they didn't. And I kind of wanted to delineate those items so we could tackle them one at a time as opposed to aggregate.
Well, I think that's the next item.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
So, can we move on from?
Yes,
from
there's
that?
no action on that one. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so as far as the incentives to do vaccines, I know Commissioner Martin had talked about maybe paying the employees who are vaccinated, if they were to get sick, paying them their time off. And if you're not vaccinated, that the employee would have to take their own time. I know different counties are doing different things. There are several counties who are doing that same thing that you talked about. I know there's some counties that are doing, like, offering a floating holiday as an incentive. If you do get vaccinated, we'll give you a floating holiday to use whenever you would like. There's monetary amounts that some counties are doing to get employees vaccinated. I don't know what y'all feel comfortable doing, or if you want to do anything at all. I know from our survey, it looks like we have about half of our employees who are vaccinated.
I still say it's a personal choice, and, I support anybody's decision whether to vaccinate or not to vaccinate, so. As far as incentivizing, I don't know, I just think it needs to be their choice. I mean, if the person wants to get it, I think they need to go get it. If they don't, support either decision as far as I'm concerned.
I agree.
Board want to do any action on either one of these?
Any motions?
Well, we'll move on. Tiny home. Ms. Brody?
We skipped the two
Oh,
items
oh,
that we
yeah.
were adding.
Well, look at
CEG
keep me
grant.
straight. All right, health. Mr. Resner, you had two?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, and we have David Lane from the Regional Commission here with us. The Regional Commission led the process of architect selection, and I think Mr. Lane's going to present those results to you and talk through that.
You know you're going to get stuck in here this long tonight, didn't you?
The Regional Commission's working with the county to develop an application for the coronavirus program, which is a new funding source under the DCA for the Community Development Block Grant Program. Basically, phase one was for food distribution centers and food banks, and now phase two, which is a deadline of December 10th, is what we're working on, which is community health clinics. And so the idea is we're sort of projecting that it's going to be $1 million to a $1.25 million project too. And the reason this is time sensitive is we're hoping to get a preliminary architectural report done by Thanksgiving, because like I said, it's due on the 10th of December, and we've got a lot of ground to cover in that short amount of time. And one of the concerns that we had with trying to do this today as opposed to on the 19th is that we have a, I'm sorry, I had a little space there. We had a, we don't know whether or not it's going to be renovating the current health clinic or it's going to be raising it and starting over. And so there's a lot of questions about what to do and how big the scope of the project will be. And so we need that amount of time to get a contract, an architectural firm selected and get a contract approved and get rolling. Basically, it was the individuals myself, as well as Mr. Risner, Mr. Morge Hutcherson of the North Central Health District, and Vice Chair Sam Kitchens. We used the methodology, which is on the last 2 pages, looking at experience, staffing capacity, and project approach. But in addition, under each of the under each firm, we put the percentage of construction costs and whether or not they have a required fee or provide the preliminary architecture report free of cost. The one that was selected with the highest rank was BB Architects and Planners. They had a score of 92.3, which was the highest. 4 of the 5 had a combination of experience, staffing, and capacity. Project approach was considered excellent, but to slightly different degrees. There was only 1, which was the lowest scoring, that had the least amount of experience as far as this project. So with that, we make the recommendation that Jones County go with BB Architects Planners, and that's all I have for you.
We've worked with them before on other projects, Chairman, and had good results with them. I'd make a motion to approve BTBB as the architect of record.
We have a motion, we have a second?
Second.
Second. Any more discussion? None, all in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Our next one is, your One Georgia.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, and Tim's still around. Tim and I have been working on this and talking through this, and he's talked previously with the board about this. So we are, the board previously approved pursuing One Georgia money to help make up that shortfall on the industrial park sewer. And so that'll make up $500,000 of that shortfall. We've done some, I guess you call it value engineering, taking out the lift station and a few other changes there that I know Tim went through, I think, previously. And so there's still a shortfall of about $164,000. And so we've kind of been talking through how to potentially make that up. The reason we need to know this is because that goes into the One Georgia application. So they want to know how we're going to fund the entire project. And
Due Friday,
yes.
Georgia application.
And so, so in talking through that, there are probably different options on how you could do that. The one that we've kind of been talking about most recently, with your 2015 SPLOST, we'll have a lengthy discussion some night on this, but on your 2015 SPLOST, we collected much more than was anticipated, to the tune of a little over $1 million. And so, a portion of that, goes to the city at their set percentage. You've got the rest to kind of figure out what to do within the confines of the SPLOST referendum that was passed way back then. One of the things that was in that SPLOST referendum was industrial park sewer. And so, what Tim and I had kind of talked about was maybe potentially recommending to the board using some of that excess SPLOST money for the industrial park sewer expansion and pledging that as, essentially, I don't know if you call it match in One Georgia context, but basically using that. And we just need this to include in a letter that the chairman will sign that says, look, hey, we're going to make up the difference with $164,000 in 2015 SPLOST money. And so wanted to throw that out there for y'all's consideration, and be happy to answer any questions y'all might have. Tim, anything you got to add?
I'm already there. I'm sorry. Motion to approve using the yes.
Any more discussion needed? I think y'all got this under control. In favor, aye?
Aye.
Let's have it. Thank y'all. Now we're to your tiny houses.
So I had an opportunity to review. There had been a lot of discussion on the county attorney listserv that's established, set up with ACCG, because the popularity of tiny homes has grown so substantially. A lot of the talk is the sort of debate between allowing these and then maintaining the integrity and value of neighboring properties, people being outspoken regarding the concerns of property values. You see, these were very popular in urban areas, and that's where they tend to fit. They have began to grow in rural areas because you've got concerns over affordable housing, and the I guess the downside or the other side of that, it goes back to concerns of, again, maintaining property values and things of that nature. If you are to decide to move, so the decision's certainly solely the board's. I've reviewed what Tim has here. There's no concerns with that. A good thing is if you decide to move forward, it would be a conditional use, which would give you some control. And there would have to be site built, but it would allow, some degree of control over the allowance of the tiny home.
Motion to approve the recommendation for tiny homes as presented by Tim.
Have a motion, we have a second?
Oops, sorry.
Uh-oh, go ahead, Tim.
I think from a procedural standpoint, we would be making a motion to begin the text amendment
Yes.
process to establish tiny homes.
Yes,
Thank
an
you.
ordinance change, so we'd have to
Okay.
read the ordinance.
Motion to approve the text amendment for tiny homes.
Specifically amending the CLDR to,
Whatever he said.
What he said. To amend the CLDR for tiny homes.
Second.
Second. Any more
Hold on.
discussion? We need more? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Yes, sir.
also, I think we should make a motion at this time to begin the process of adopting Appendix Q. That will also be another resolution, and that's not part of the zoning ordinance, that's part of the building codes.
Motion to adopt Appendix Q.
Second.
Second. Any more discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you. Thank you, Tim.
Do we need to throw metal housing in there too?
Did we want to address the metal siding? That was just something I threw in here
I
because of
get
getting
more
a lot
calls
of-
about it because it's becoming
It's
a,
very popular.
Motion to allow,
The motion would be to
Yes.
begin the text amendment process of the CLDR to allow metal
Right.
siding on dwellings as a conditional use.
What he said.
all right, we got a motion by.
Second.
Motion.
Second.
You made the motion.
You
He
made
made
the
the
mo-
motion.
Second.
motion.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you, Tim.
Text
And I'll see you again in
amendments.
about 2 months.
All right.
Same.
Text amendment seal. I'm gonna need that in a paragraph next time. You
Department
ready?
heads, anybody tonight on department heads?
Yes, real quick.
You speaking for John tonight too?
No.
Beg pardon?
Tim, we're not used to you being in here. You keep raising your hand out there.
I need to sign it.
No.
Tim's usually gone 3
I
minutes
know,
into the meeting.
exactly.
Just figured this long, he's got questions.
Yeah, I
And
asked
he
him,
keeps
was
raising his hand.
I'm sorry, I was just gonna say, if you would check the last paragraph of the staff report.
I asked him, was he okay? A while ago. I kind of agree with our counselor. It seems like we've been here for 3 days. I'm in wet clothes, dry clothes, wet clothes,
Uh-huh.
and that's what I'm wearing right now. But anyway,
ones are
just
dry?
three or four things right quick. This week is the state and the national Fire Prevention Week, October the 3rd through the 9th. Getting into the schools, we've been kind of tough this year. I know that I think we've had one unit at one of the schools, but it's been dicey since the COVID deal. But anyway, we're still doing what we can as far as fire prevention. Just sitting here since 6 or 5 o'clock. We went under a flash flood warning, watch, warning again, watch again, and now we're in a warning. I'm going to have to go and check on before I go home up in the Juliet area. So we've got heavy rains expected the next day or so, and probably end by Thursday. Jones County Fair started tonight. The fire department, we're going to have a booth there this year. We're going to be trying to grab some new folks.
We're going to be pushing Code Red hard. Amongst other things, we're going to be, and then, of course, fire prevention. On September 28th, the governor, I'd had a conversation with Boss about the governor's announcement with public safety and first responder. I don't know what you call it, a bonus, yeah. And I don't know if it has to be approved through the board or what. I know that we just follow through with a grant through the Office and Budget Department through the state, and I know there's a lot of public service people that are, that's sheriff's office, court systems, next door, and then the fire department alone. So deadline is the 31st of December, so I don't want to drop the ball on that. That's all I got.
Thank you. Anyone else, John?
I just want to let y'all know that Homer Roberts is finished for us paved. It's got to get striped, and they started on Royal Oaks. They got the leveling down, and the rain kind of messed us up. And I got a couple roads, I hope.
They're still together.
I got two. I got Sturk Road and Pine View that I'm kind of worried about.
How far down on Sturk?
Sturk is down there right past where the big gate that goes in.
Okay, we turn around there.
At the creek.
Anything else, Tim? Mr. Redner?
Just a quick thank you to I would have been done by now. I was just going to quickly say thank you to building maintenance for painting the room. They did a nice job with it, and it looks a lot
My teacher,
better.
when I come in, I said, something different here, what's going on?
It looks like your office.
Hey, but it did get painted 3 times.
That's right. Ms. Wagner, you got anything? Commissioner comments, quick?
Absolutely not.
Great night, see y'all next time.
Yeah.
No.
Any
executive
citizens
session.
tonight? Need a motion to go into executive session for personnel and?
Motion, go into executive session for personnel and potential land acquisition.
Second.
Second, all in favor, aye? Thank you, everybody.